Well, hey, everyone, and welcome to the Invisible Obvious podcast, a place for conversations to explore greater awareness, communication, and accountability for leaders today. I'm your host, Daniel Paulus, and today I am thrilled to talk with Maggie Rock. Maggie and I met producing corporate events with PricewaterhouseCoopers a number of years ago. She spent a good amount of time there, which she's going to share with us today in that Chicago office, and I consider her a true pro at relationship development and management. So welcome, Maggie. Thank you.
For having me, Dan.
I like to have folks to start these conversations just kind of introduce themselves, tell us how you got to where you're at, right? Professionally, if you want to weave in personal stuff, that's fine. But I'm very blessed to have a lot of accomplished people in my network. So I think it's fun for people to hear kind of a little journey that people take to get where they're at later in their professional life. So
You bet. You bet. Well, I feel like it's like through accident where everywhere I've ended up. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, I guess, or, just follow the path that's in front of you and just try to do the right thing. But I think as I think about the commonality of the decisions I've made along the way and throughout my career and personal life, I've just really tried to find and in some cases follow really smart, driven, and kind people. I guess that's the commonality behind it. I've always tried to, do what's fun, light and,
right. Which I love about you. We had lots of fun when we were doing events together. This is why we connected, I think, because here's Maggie. She's like working for a big, serious corporate company, but she's got a great sense of humor. I'm like, okay, bring it on, bring it on.
I mean, we can't take ourselves too seriously. So
Right.
try to do things that are productive and that are meaningful. I'm good at doing. It's certainly a lot easier to do a job that you're good at and that you like and that you have some fun at than one that feels like a challenge every day.
Right.
Of course, you want those challenges and opportunities to grow. So that's really been what's led me throughout the career.
Okay. So just for context here, you came out of school. You're from Iowa. You're a good Iowa girl, good Midwestern, great work ethic, which I also connect with, coming from the Midwest. And did you start right at PwC? Did you jump? Was that your first job out of school?
Yes. So we share a flair for the dramatic because I was an opera major in school and then became an accountant because that's a normal progression, right? Especially at the
Right.
University of Iowa, right?
Yeah.
Out of undergrad, I came out with my accounting degree and moved to Chicago and immediately started as an auditor. And then spent over 20 years with PwC. Actually, only spent a few years as an auditor and took on various roles in marketing, recruiting, relationship management, alumni relations, and I ended my career there as an account executive.
Okay. So that is a long time in one place. Number one, maybe not so much in some parts of the country anymore, but I mean, I think you're the only person I know that's worked at one place that long in my entire network, which I always admired because I would go through all these job changes and you'd hear from me periodically, yep, switching now, transition, what's going on? Do you know anybody? And you were always terrific on LinkedIn and everything, trying to connect me to people. So you have the benefit of being in one place and seeing how it worked and understanding your value there, right? Which we've kind of talked about offline, because I don't really know what that feels like to be in one place for that long and people to invest in you in that way, right? But because you had that experience, you also were able to interface with a lot of clients, right? And what I'd love for you to unpack a little bit is, and again, not by name, not Joe Smith from X, Y, but in seeing all these high-level corporate clients, the PwC and the Chicago office in particular works with, what were some of the commonalities that you noticed from leaders and the challenges that they were wrestling with to drive productivity, to drive growth, to drive all the things that you were hired to help them do? Would love for you to expand on that as long as you want. So,
Yeah, well, I'm a people person. I think it's no surprise to you that I fall very, very far along on the extrovert side of things. So I get my energy from other people, and I think as I've thought about it, most organizations think about growth and change and development in the three major buckets: people, process, tech, right?
mm-hmm.
Especially in today's age. And all can give you problems. But if you don't have really in any industry, the right people behind you, the right leaders, helping to guide and support and direct and inspire the people that are working with them. It's really hard to execute on a strategy. You can have the best processes out there. You can have the world-class tech, but if the people aren't there to leverage it, to grow it, to nurture it, to make it better, with the, kind of continuous improvement, that's really, I think, the magic sauce behind it all. So maybe in our, tech age, that's a good thing for all of us people.
Yeah,
The
no,
people
I think that I'm 100% there with you. I'm a total extrovert too, and I want to save humanity by us actually still talking to each other for some reason, rather than our chatbots. But anyway, so I know that the practice is broken down into different teams that handle different clients, right? And so you probably observed different leaders of teams leading in different ways and saw successful leadership modeled and some not so successful leadership modeled. So give us an example of like what that looked like from both of those samples internally with your colleagues at PwC, and then if you can kind of pivot to an external client you were working with, where you were like, man, we were hired to help these people really do something awesome, and we just ran into just a roadblock that was directly connected to leadership. Because my premise with all this, Maggie, is it starts at the top. It just starts at the top. I don't care how big the organization is. Actually, when it's bigger, like a multinational like that, it's probably even more important. But you have layers there. So what
Yeah.
do you think about, like, tell us a good example of a leader of a team that you thought, man, this person knew how to really manage his group, and he was successful with his client relationships and drove business consequently, obviously, for PwC.
Yeah. You just see a ton of it at PwC because it's a people organization.
Yep.
And I was at a conference and I heard someone speaking about relationships, and I feel bad that I'm not going to be able to to give credit where credit is due for this insight that I've latched onto. But they said, the best relationships, whether they're professional or personal, are ones where both sides feel safe, empowered, and vital. And I really, gosh, I heard that sort of in passing. I'm sure I was multitasking and looking at my phone too much. But as I think about the best leaders I've watched or worked under, and maybe some of the best leadership instances that I've had, I think it's been relationships where if I'm the leader, I'm an ally. I'm an ally first. I've got your back. Yes, of course, we're both striving for the organizational goals that we've set for ourselves. At the end of the day, you feel supported. You feel safe working with me, whoever it is, right? And you feel vital. The work's important. It matters whether you get it right or not.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel empowered to do your job the best way you can. For some reason, you make a mistake, you learn from it, you fail fast, you move on. You're empowered to make decisions. You're empowered to make a difference in the best way you can. So when I heard this speaker say that, I was like, gosh, that's meaningful. I'm going to remember that, and I'm going to try to always steer that way. And as I thought back to all my, at Oak Point, at PwC, everywhere I've been, the best of the best, that's how it's felt to work with them.
So what do you think they're doing right when they're able to create that space of safety, right? Because it's highly competitive business. There's stress, there's demands, there's outcomes that you're hired to help meet. How did they manage that as leaders and then cascade that down to their teams so it felt collaborative, it felt fun, it felt everything that you kind of just said?
Yeah. I think it's hard, right? And it's a little blurred because you can't just probably have a completely professional transactional relationship and have those feelings come out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I think, where discretionary time comes in. You got to spend the extra minutes to show you care, to learn what inspires people, what challenges them, what I see coming through my eyes and what I hear from my ears looks different to me than it does to you, right? Because we have a different skill set. We've got different experiences and all those things. And if you can't spend the time to figure out, gosh, where do you feel safe? Where do you feel most challenged? Where do you feel most frustrated? what's hardest for you in this job, and what's so easy that you do it all day long because you always knock it out of the park. If you can't have those frank conversations and the back and forth around those things, you're never going to get there. And so I think it's about taking the time. And then I think it never goes without saying, are we both working towards the same North Star? I think
Right.
we can both agree, right? Like we've been in situations where
Oh, yeah.
I've completely lost view of why I'm doing what I'm doing and how it's the next step forward to that North Star. And so when the vision isn't clear, when the relationships aren't developed, it's really hard to take the baby steps needed. We've talked a lot about integration and accountability. It's really hard to drive accountability when somebody doesn't feel supported and safe and like the work they're doing is important, right? It's really hard to drive integration if you can't take baby steps, if you can't be a little patient, but also flexible at the same time to fail fast. So that's, I think, what I've seen the most of and what has always inspired me to honestly give discretionary time to my job rather
Yeah.
than to other places.
Yeah, no, and I admired that about you, and I think that's why we connected. We worked together at Chicago Shakespeare Theater. I was head of corporate events, of the corporate kind of giving area, basically. And Maggie came to me. They were a sponsor for the theater, and they said, "Let's do a corporate event." And so we brought a bunch of people out to world-class theater, and then we had an event afterwards. And this is exactly what you're talking about. You're putting them in a space where they can be kind of real, human. They've experienced something that kind of cracks them open, from a more emotional perspective. And the physical space there was so beautiful, that it was kind of a perfect example of what you're talking about. And you just embraced that with such gusto. And I was like, man, I wish I could work with 10 Maggies because she so gets it. I mean, some people just think of events as like onerous and like lots of details. And they are, but you need to make them look effortless so that the people, when they attend, can step into that space, right? And then the gift resonates far after that. And I hope you felt that, and I'm sure you did, from people, of like, thanks for putting that together. I had no idea I'd, feel that way, or that, wow, that was really, made me think about this. So I really appreciate that. And you sharing that. So you were at PwC for 20 years, and then you mentioned Oak Point, which you've moved into. Talk to us a little bit about what made you make the decision of like, okay, I've invested 20 years here now, and I know your husband is still there and in a very special role. So you're still connected, obviously, but how to have that courage to step out of that comfort zone, if you'd call it that, and move in a new direction. Just a little bit about what you're doing now. So
yeah, well, huge kudos to him, right? Because he was the one that helped me kind of get out of my shell, if you will, and say, gosh, if I've got another 10, 15 years of real work that I'm going to be doing here in the marketplace,
you're much younger than that, Maggie. You got at least 20 or 30. Yeah.
Just retire early.
Early retirement.
Tennis and golf. I mean, isn't that the
There
goal?
you go. Yeah. All right. That works too. Right.
Oh, retire from corporate America.
Mm-hmm.
But, and give back, right? What are we going to do? What are we going to do to give back? But anyway, I think I was at a place, it was sort of like, traditional marketing 101. Eric, our founder and CEO, found me at exactly the right time, at the right place, in the right situation. And maybe an offer I couldn't refuse, and it was just the push that I needed to say, gosh, I've really done pretty much everything I can do at PwC. And of course I can do more of the same, but is now a good time to learn something different, to grow in a different way, to learn a whole new business, a whole new, way of working, and see if I can add value there, bringing all this experience I've had over the years and still stay, very close to everyone that I've built those relationships over the years with. Yeah. And it was great. And so I'll give myself a lot of credit for taking the risk and having to learn something new that was not easy and hard.
When you posted it on LinkedIn, I was like, boom. I was so, like I said, been so impressed over the years that you had the staying power, and I had a sense that you were happy. I mean, some people stay and they're just phoning it in, but you were always doing something new, different, and you'd really found a way to fit in that culture, and you were constantly moving up. And I thought, okay, she's one of the lucky ones, I guess. She found it, but then when you took this leap, I was so happy and proud of you in kind of a friend way. And I knew that, Rod would be supportive of that. And I'm glad you guys have been able to take that chance, because I'm sure you're bringing tremendous value to this new. So the company is Oak Point. And just briefly, what kind of work do they do?
Yeah, we are the leading institutional buyer of unknown assets.
There,
So,
that sounds
yeah,
very mysterious. Let's leave it at that. Unknown assets, right? Uh,
simple,
cool.
straightforward, but not super intuitive. So we're really good at finding any intangible assets that people have lost, companies, not people,
Right.
organizations have lost over the years. And we do the work on our own, and we share in the treasure that we find with our partners. And it's just a completely not easy work, but really fun, in that we are sort of treasure hunters. So everything kind of sort of like, wow, there's more money under that rock than we thought there was going to be.
Yeah.
And so I lead the deals we do with healthy companies, and I'm having a ball doing it. We've been around for 20 years, and great people, growing very fast, and moving with a lot of agility, which, is, you can imagine, I think in my experience, I was lucky enough to serve really amazing large organizations that frankly were so big that they couldn't always move with such
that's like the Titanic. It's just a huge infrastructure you can move pieces, but the ripple effect is massive, right? Yeah. So
that's right.
But
so it's fun to kind of, bring up some of what I already knew, and then learn a lot of new things along the way too.
Okay. Wonderful. So you mentioned integration and kind of accountability. I want to dip into that a little bit with you. Again, one of my premises with this invisible obvious work is that we all need greater awareness, right? And we need greater awareness around things like our personality, our worldview, our leadership style, our emotional intelligence. Some of us know what those things are. Some of us have taken tests along the way, and then we put it in a nice drawer, and we put a little, nameplate on our desk that says we're this type of person. And people walk in for the first 2 weeks and say, "Oh, yeah, I'm this kind." And then they never think about it again. So there's been efforts for a long time, especially the HR function, to try to get at this. I want to work specifically with high-level leaders in a very personal way around a much deeper awareness and ownership of this, not asking them to change who they are, but asking them to be, embrace who they are more, but just be more aware of it. Because I find leaders get the caveat to kind of be who they are, and it's easy to forget how they're being perceived because they're the leader. Mm-hmm. And so I just find these conversations fascinating with people of like, well, I'm an ENFJ, and I'm okay, great. So am I. What does that mean to you? Well, it means this, my person. But how do you think you're perceived as that? And then people, I hadn't really thought about that. It's just who I am. So anyway, getting into this, do you think there is value? I hope you're going to say yes, obviously, around exploring this more deeply. Because again, the first part of my work is really popping the hood with people on that. And then getting into some of the leadership coaching, deeper questions. What do you want to do with your life? What's really important to you? What are your values? How does it drive that? Then I cascade it down and working with the team, the executive team, to have more of a flow in the conversation and the communication, really understanding those basics about them. So for instance, if I've got, a high-level executive who's a visual learner, and I keep sending him these PowerPoint spreadsheets or decks, and he comes into meetings and is like, yeah, I didn't have a chance to look at that. It's kind of on me in some ways, to know how to be better in what I'm asking for, and to give them the tools that they need to run it through. And then the last piece is we get into the culture piece, if they're ready to kind of unpack some change management and how those things connect. So what are your thoughts about that, this idea, and how it connects to accountability? Because a friend of mine said to me, who actually encouraged me to start this podcast, and he said, you're doing something different. A lot of people talk about awareness, but they don't connect it to accountability as much. And that's the hard part. And yes, it is, because you need an accountability partner and someone you can really trust to do that, which is super hard to find when you're the CEO and everybody's working for you. Yeah. Right. So what do you think about that? I'll let you connect the dots there in your own way.
Well, just as you were presenting kind of the thesis there,
Mhm.
my mind went in so many different directions. I'm going to try to bring it in, but kind of starting from the end and working backwards,
Mhm.
I will say working for PwC was, a case study in, you know, needing leaders to drive the change in culture, um, in awareness, in accountability, in creating a workplace where you can be your best every
Mhm.
day because they had to, right? There's not enough accountants, economists, computer science majors. There's not enough
Mhm.
for everyone. So you have to bring more as an employer and as a leader to the conversation for those, for the few people that are the supply to meet the demand that you need them to meet. Um, and so as I watched leaders be more open about what their biases are, what their passions are,
Yep.
what they're really good at, and frankly, what they're not really good at. It
Absolutely.
just kind of like opened up this almost like collective sigh of, okay, I can be myself, right? Because you're being yourself. And you're
Right.
telling me some of the things that maybe a leader 20 years ago wouldn't have ever admitted. But having done that, now I can be myself and I can bring that true self to my workplace. And I think that's probably the biggest change starting in 1997 and seeing what transpired in culture, frankly, probably all of the big consulting,
Technology, the internet,
right?
everything, super
Everything.
fast. Yeah.
What changed to say we can be better? We can enjoy the 40, 50, 60, 70 hours we work here every week more. And we can do it in a way that supports each other without losing any money. We're going to grow every year and we're going to do this. And it's proven to be that they're right, right? It's proven to be the case, but it's really, really hard. I'll say the number one person that keeps popping into my mind is the current managing partner of PwC here in Chicago. Her name's Laura Tone, the best of the best at this.
Mhm.
Like, just every single conversation is, how can I help you? What do you need from me to be successful? What am I not giving you? Whether it's constructive feedback, support, encouragement, cheerleading, what am I not bringing to the table as the person who should be helping you get to that next step that I can do better? And it's not always about that. Sometimes there's very direct feedback. Sometimes there's very constructive. We need to do A, B, C, D, E, F. But when you're in that mode of mentoring and developing your people, that's what I think of. That's where my mind goes as the best of the best. And really, when people create long-term loyalty with an organization that can't be beat.
Yeah, so I mean that takes me right to, again, an aspect of this work is it's the servant leadership, mindset, which is some people have heard of. Some people think that sounds soft. I think that's kind of a mystery out there, but it also, everything I read about as we get older and more accomplished, the flip that happens is giving back and supporting people to be successful, and that's huge, and that takes people at different points, and different opportunities in their career to get to that place. But I mean, we certainly need more people like Laura that can do that well for huge companies or smaller companies. So I appreciate you really sharing that.
Yeah.
I want to keep us on track, and I know you got to jump here pretty soon. So the last couple of minutes we have, the last few things I like to ask people about are, where do you feel the most vulnerable? Like
Mm-hmm.
in this is more professionally, I guess, but it could intersect with your personal life. And then what brings you hope? Where
Yeah.
we are in a really interesting time, and I'm working hard this year to be less. Say judgment. I can always be less judgmental. That's my personality, but be, I guess, less frustrated or complain less about the problems I see, and just try to be more open. I'm not ignoring what I see as problems, and they're huge problems, and I hope other people see them too and act in certain ways. But so for you, vulnerability and hope. But wrap
Yeah.
us up there. Yeah.
Oh, vulnerability. Oh, I hate making mistakes. I
So
hate back.
perfectionism, or is it
Any,
perfectionism?
I don't know. I mean, we'll dive into that, I guess, off camera. Like, I don't know. I hate making mistakes. I hate backtracking. I'm very impatient. I'm
Okay.
always looking forward, right?
Yep.
So if you think about new strategies that need to be executed that have never been done before, when I'm asked to do that and I'm in that uncomfortable space of, I'm really going to be not happy if I spend all the time doing this and then it doesn't work.
Yep.
That's hard for me to get out of my head and just be like, okay, but Maggie, that is a step forward. Even if you take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, you feel fast, you're flexible, you move forward. Every strength has a con, you know what I mean? Like has an opposite side of it.
Yep.
That's where I struggle the most, and I'm aware of it. So, you kind of like muscle through it if you're, tough like me.
Yep.
Hope. I mean, I come back to people are good. Do you know what I mean? Like we are good. And you see it every day. I'm lucky in my job now. I get to talk to people in every industry at every level. I get to talk to people all day. That's my job, right? Of course, about what we do, but also about their business and their hopes and dreams and frustrations, right? If I get to know them a little bit, which I love to do. And every day I'm reminded we are great people who like to help each other. Of course, we get stressed, we get
Yep.
distracted, but at the core of it, I think most of us are in that bucket. And so I think that will prevail. I'd like to be optimistic that it will
Yeah,
prevail.
no, I think, well said. And I would agree. I mean, the phrase I like to use a lot, and I've worked for these kind of people, and I've been wired this way from the very beginning for personal reasons, is I think we are called to be our best selves or our better selves or our better angels, right? Um, Society, circumstances, people can get in the way of that. But I do believe, like you, that at the base, people want to be good, do good, take care of their family. And it's just figuring out how to navigate in this day and age where, technology and social media and noise and fragmentation and everything makes that a real challenge. So you have to be more aware, have to be more conscious, have to be more open and concerned, and try to be more in your heart when all you're hearing is stuff in your head. And so it is not easy by any means. And I just hope I can be helpful to some folks, again, that are in, roles that require a huge amount of their brain power, but they're disconnecting from their heart, So, I mean, you don't want to be the most successful leader in the world and then go home and kick your dog and, don't want to talk to your wife. I mean, that's not winning, you know? And again, balance is not easy. I mean, it's not easy. It takes work. It takes somebody helping you and being open to help. So I'll be curious where this all leads and the people that I get to meet through it. But I'm grateful that we have met and have kept in touch along the way. And we got to see each other in Nashville not too long ago, which is great. Um, and
Yeah.
again, I want to thank you for your support over the years of always being there in the interim and always being a positive kind of influence about something will come up, it'll show itself. And here, talk to this person. And also, really a model. I know it wasn't easy every day, but I mean, to talk to someone that worked in corporate America for one company for 20 years, that is amazing. And you came out and you're still smiling and, you're still building your life. And so I just want to congratulate you on that, because that is no small feat. I know you can take that for granted, sometimes, but I think you're a good model for people to know that there can be life after that if they so choose, even if it's a good experience, and to take a chance and see where it goes. So that's all we can do, right?
That's right. That's right. I completely agree. And thank you. This was so fun. And I love what you're doing in this space. I want to be supportive and continue
Thank you.
to learn from it.
Yeah, we can do the hour and a half uncut version later on of this, but you've got to run to do your thing here. So I'll finish this up today. And again, thank you, Maggie, for making time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.